Government takes a decision not to renew Youth Employment Agency contracts with Zoomlion, and this is following a petition by investigative journalist Manasseh Azure. Government has also said that they will increase sweepers' fees, another sticking point around this controversial Zoomlion contract. But the company says the contract died a natural death, and they are ready to compete in any subsequent procurement processes. This morning, we have in studio the investigative journalist Manasseh Azure for all the perspectives on this issue. Manasseh, it's a pleasure to host you on the AM show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Could you brace?
Anyway, Manasseh, I'm sure you read the response from the Zoomlion. Over the weekend, we've been having chats on the whole issue. Then this comes. When you read the response, what do you make of it?
Well, the response doesn't really say anything or answer any substantive question or the sticking points in this conversation. In the first place, the president's letter was clear. This contract has been existing since 2006. Every 2 years, it expires and is renewed. The president says this time it's not going to be renewed. It's a discontinuation. I don't think nobody said anywhere that this was a contract that was terminated. So obviously the company doesn't have anything to say. The real issues behind the discontinuation of the contract are, one, there are issues of corruption. Two, the people who are supposed to work, who are sweeping, who battle with the field, are treated like slaves, while the company takes a chunk of the revenue. And then we also even have the most important point that everybody should be looking forward to is they can decide to compete for certain contracts that they are needed. But this contract, no assembly in this country needs Zoomlion or any other company to come and then manage its sweepers.
Okay.
The sweepers are paid from the Assembly's Common Fund. 10% of the District Assembly's Common Fund is deducted to cater for this contract. So if, let's say, you are in Bongo District, all the people sweeping are in that district. The Bongo District Assembly has a waste and sanitation department. And every assembly in this country has that department. That department, together with the YEA, can supervise these sweepers. We don't need any intermediary. So that is a very important point that we have to make. The intermediaries have been the subject of corruption at the Youth Employment Agency. I did this investigation in 2013, the JIDA. And a chunk of the corruption came from needless intermediaries who are brought into interface. And all the contracts were cancelled, but the programs have still run. None of them has collapsed because there's no third-party company or intermediary. This is the only contract with the intermediary. There even was a contract awarded to a sister company of Zoomlion that had about 70,000 people. Those who were teaching, those who were doing the nursing, the health assistant, and also internship models. 3 models, about 70,000 people. When the contract was cancelled, the YE has found a way of collaborating with state institutions and sector agencies to run these projects. So if you're talking about any contract, this should be off the table. We should have this fumigation contracts to off the table because those are also very corrupt means of taking money. Because assemblies, a lot of them have machines to do fumigation. But when they need it, they get an order from above to stop so that a different contract will be awarded to Zoomlion to come and do it. Meanwhile, Zoomlion already has standing fumigation contracts with all these assemblies since 2010 till date. So if you look at this sector, there's so much corruption in that sector, and I can say almost all of them, or these contracts that are shady, dubious, and all of that, are awarded to just one business or conglomerate, Zoomlion and its sister companies within the Jospon Group.
So you're saying that the fumigation contract is different from the sweepers one?
Yes. So this is the structure.
Yeah.
Every assembly in this country has money from its common fund deducted to pay for these sweepers. And if you go to the assemblies, they sweep the markets and public spaces. You find these huge containers. So when they sweep and they dump the refuse in the container, Zoomlion lifts that container. There is a separate contract for the lifting of the container. So this 600 Zoomlion takes out of the 850, it doesn't cover the lifting of the container to the dumping site. There's a separate contract called the Sanitation Improvement Package Contract, which is on every district assembly's common fund letter. They pay every quarter. Then when they take it to the disposal site...
So that contract is for the lifting?
Lifting, yes.
Okay.
That's contract number 2. When they take it to the disposal site, there's a third contract called Landfill Site Management Service. So a contract is awarded. So we have contract number 3, also paid from the District Assembly's Common Fund. Then sometimes they say, well, the gutters need to be sprayed and all of that. So there's a contract number 4 called the MMDA's Fumigation Contract. Every assembly has signed this contract. Then since 2009, and this MMDA's fumigation contract has been running since 2010, then since 2009, there has been a contract to also do a second fumigation. That one they claim is targeted at mosquitoes. One is targeted at diseases such as cholera. And that contract is called a NAMCOP, awarded from the Ministry of Health, and then payment is done from the National Health Insurance levy. So this is about the 5th or contract. Then every year the Ministry of Local Government awards another fumigation contract to Zoomlion, the same Zoomlion that does the Assembly's fumigation, the Ministry of Health fumigation. There's a third fumigation contract for Zoomlion from the Ministry of Local Government. In the past, they used to say cholera, but in 2021, they said it was to curb COVID-19, which Obiamwa said on radio that, well, whoever said it was to curb COVID-19 wasn't being truthful, and that the spraying wasn't expected to kill the virus. And we have his audio on that. So fumigation alone, there are 3, and we have another 3 contracts.
Yeah, so it means that
6.
Yes, so the sweepers is what government pays them 800 cedis.
Yes,
for.
But all these ones have other payments. Then there used to be this in Saman or these town council people, sanitation inspectors, who went to communities, markets to ensure that people didn't even litter around and all of that. They took that contract from the assemblies and gave it to Zoomlion. They called it the Sanitation Guards. Sanitation Guards. So this is contract number 7. Okay.
Wow.
Sanitation contract number 7, covering every district for just one company and its affiliates. Then you have contract number 8, being every region seems to claim they have these waste processing plants that went to Zoomlion. When you come to Accra, they have ACAP, which is also a contract, the Accra Compost Recycling Plant. When you hear about it, you think it is a private person that owns it. Government pays every month for the running of that plant.
Those treatment plants.
Yes. And then you have some of them around the Lavender Hill, which may be contract number 9, that the Auditor General made some findings and said, look, when the plant was being constructed, the state paid about 95 million cedis to the Jospon Group to construct the plant. And the Auditor General said, well, this is a private person or a private entity. we haven't found any evidence that the government owns shares in this enterprise. So the money should be retrieved. The money wasn't retrieved. Rather, 156 million cedis more was paid to this company, Sewage Services Limited. It is around the Lavender Hill area. So there are so many.
So Manasseh, you're saying that these recycling plants,
yes,
which are dotted, because I know there is one in Western Region, Takrade.
Yes, everywhere.
Those recycling plants are paid for by government.
Yes.
Every month.
Yes. They are contracts with the state. They are not just. And then the issue is that if you look at the arrangement, nobody even monitors to see whether they are actually recycling the waste. Because if we...
okay, Manasseh, sorry, but I know they are recycling because I've been to the one on the Insawam Road. That's what you call ACAP, right?
Yes, ACAP.
But when they recycle, it's for the company. Why are we paying?
From day one, the state has been paying. The company claims it uses the waste to do fertilizer and others.
Yes, yes.
Yes. But the state pays for all these contracts I've spoken about. So the Zoomlion issue is such a big one, and if you look at the amount of money Ghana loses to this company, it calls for serious...
But this will be a raw material, and raw materials you sell.
Yes,
so,
elsewhere.
So why are we rather the ones paying the company for a product that we should be selling to them? Because I know they produce raw materials for the manufacturing of plastic chairs. They produce compost fertilizers, because I've been to the company, I see them doing that. So those are raw materials we give them that they should be paying us for. Rather, we are paying money for those. That's quite intriguing.
We pay money for all of that. And this is a fact.
Wow.
Yes.
So, Manasseh, these are the issues that you spotted that triggered your petition to the president. In fact, I've been following some of your write-ups on Facebook. From the beginning of this year, you've been on this Zoomlion case.
Yes.
When you look at the response from the Zoomlion company, they're sort of saying that, yes, the president wants to increase sweepers' fees. It's in order. They are committed to the reforms. They are committed to the presidential audit. They don't, however, admit that they've done anything wrong in their response. So, for example, this morning we're discussing why they'll take about 800 cedis and pay sweepers something around 200-300 Ghana cedis. And we are finding out that it's in the contract. So this is the same contracts that Zoomlion entered with the government. So should we really be faulting Zoomlion?
In this deal, you fault Zoomlion and the government. I said somewhere that Zoomlion doesn't take a gun to force people to do the contracts. But I've also spoken to government officials who have said, look, if you dare oppose Zoomlion contract, the pressure that will mount on you. So,
pressure from where?
From the political class, because if they say Zoomlion is very influential. If you look at some of this documentary, a section of it that is running, somebody actually said when I went to Pandai, the presiding officer says he believed even the central government cannot control Zoomlion, so the assemblies can also not control the company. So both Zoomlion and the government have connived to do these things. A few seconds ago, you saw some waste bins rolling and all of that. If in this investigation or the waste bin contract, the first thing, we didn't need the waste bins. So you fault the government. The government had procured some, couldn't distribute them, and then went to procure more. We didn't need the waste bins. And that one, you can fault Zoomlion. But there's a part of the contract that you can fault Zoomlion. The cost, how much Zoomlion was selling to the public and then the state, the difference. They were selling at the time we did this investigation, a waste bin, 240-liter waste bin, was being sold at 150 at Zoomlion, and then to the state, they were selling it for around 250. Okay, I went for a pro forma invoice from the company. I was procuring 500 pieces. The government was procuring 1 million pieces. So the government should have had a
discount of
a discount of a sort if we are looking at economies of large scale. And then there was even the most outrageous part of it. They were to supply 900,000 pieces of bin liners. Those rubbers we put in
the bin, the black one.
Yeah, black ones. Yes.
The raw rubbish.
Yes, and then go and throw it out. They were selling. I went to Zoomlion again, their sister companies, the Jospon Group, for a pro forma. And on the pro forma, I was getting 500 pieces, and the government was procuring 900,000 pieces. And guess how much they were selling to me? 98 pesos a piece.
Okay.
Less than 1 cedi. This was in 2017. In 2016, when they entered into that contract with the government, they were supplying a piece of $15.6 a piece.
Hey, the black polythene.
Black polythene.
$15.
$15.6. As of 2016, about 9 years ago. Today, you won't buy that thing for $15. And they were selling it for 98 pesos. At the time, it was around 22 cents. 22 cents, less than half a dollar.
Yeah.
But they were selling a piece for $15.6. So when I did the calculation, the cost was supposed to have been $200,000, but that component of the contract was $14 million.
Hey.
$200,000 worth of contract invoiced to the government for 14 million United States dollars.
This is not now. We're not talking. These findings, they did not come to light now.
No. This
has been happening over successive.
Yes. So when I
NPP administration, the
exactly
administration. In your findings, what actually gives rise to such influence for the Jospon Group? You said that they are so influential.
Yes.
What actually gives what leverage do they have over two? I mean, it's only the NDC and NPP in power, so the two of them. What leverage does he have?
I wrote a book titled The Fourth John, Rain, Rejection, and Rebound. And in that book, I said that whenever Zoomlion is concerned or involved, government officials act without consulting their brains. And people thought it was too harsh. But if you realize that a deal that is supposed to be $200,000 is invoiced for $14 million, and we didn't need those bin liners because we had procured some from a different company at a lower cost and couldn't even distribute them. So they were all scattered across the country. The question as to what Zoomlion is able to do to get both sides, there are lots of speculations. I do not have evidence that somebody has taken A to do B or whatever in this country, but it is on record. If anybody listening to me Googles World Bank debars Zoomlion, this same contract, the year I did the
documentary
on and started this Zoomlion thing, the World Bank banned Zoomlion for 2 years from competing for any World Bank contract, because Zoomlion, according to the World Bank, had paid bribes in Liberia to facilitate contract execution and then payments. So it is on the World Bank's website as we speak. World Bank debars bars a Ghanaian
You're right,
company.
I'm actually reading it right now.
Yes.
World Bank debars Ghanaian company for sanctionable something. The World Bank announces debarment of Zoomlion Ghana, privately held company. Yes, you're right. It's there. As at 25th September 2013.
2013, yes.
Brace, this sends some shock down your waves, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I mean, Manasseh enumerated about 9 contracts that Zoomlion has. If government says it is not renewing Which of them is government talking about?
The government is talking specifically about the sweepers contract.
Just that?
Yes, just that. And says the others will be subjected to competitive tendering, and also they will be reviewed. The fumigation ones will be reviewed. So what the government has announced, we still have to be on it and then ensure that the right thing is done. Because sometimes you take your eyes off the ball and they go behind the scenes to do similar things. And we know that as far as this company is concerned, a lot has been uncovered. Thankfully, the waste bins contract and this bin liners contract, at the time, payment hadn't been made.
Okay. So
the Akufo-Addo administration came and then they cancelled that contract. So that's $74 million. That amount was saved. They started some investigation, including the fumigation, and the Attorney General at the time asked me to help the police do the investigation.
Okay.
So I worked hand in hand with the Financial Forensic Unit of the Ghana Police Service. At the time, Mamitu Adodankwa was the CID director. So I saw the evidence. There's a company, Meridian Waste Services Limited.
Okay.
This company was paid about 7 million cedis to fumigate the Tema area. And the contract was awarded in June 2015.
Okay.
This company was registered to start business in October 2015. Okay. So even at the time it got a contract, it wasn't a registered company.
Okay. That's also an affiliate of Zoomlion.
Of Zoomlion, yes. Because that fumigation contract had 11 separate companies that were single-sourced for that fumigation contract. 11 companies. All the 11 companies belong to the Zoomlion.
I'm just a little bit curious. How did you establish the connection between the Meridian and Zoomlion?
So I went to the Registrar General to get the registration details of all the 11 companies that were listed on the single-sourced contract. Then every one of those companies belonged to the Zoomlion group. So you have Volta Waste, you have Upper East Waste, you have Western Waste, you have Meridian Waste. So you, on paper, you see 11 companies, but go behind all those 11 companies, and there were companies of the Jospon group. And these companies were to do services or render the service, the fumigation service, in the district that Zoomlion already had 2 existing fumigation contracts to render. So,
because from what you explained earlier, they have 3.
Yes.
And then these companies were given another 1.
Yeah, so this is the 3rd one. So there were 2, and these companies were given the 3rd one.
Okay.
And I suspect they did that because if you put Zoomlion to go to Upper East and do this fumigation, when you go to Upper East, all the districts already have a fumigation contract with Zoomlion, and then all the districts were also covered under the Ministry of Health's
fumigation contract.
So it made sense to say Upper East Waste.
Did you have anybody telling you why those were done? Why, in the presence of 2 fumigation contracts, the country gave another fumigation contract to another company?
And trust me, these places, when we went, nobody said they saw Zoomlion or any of those companies delivering a service.
So they didn't do it?
The police went around, and all the places, the assemblies where they were supposed to work, said they didn't know about this contract. They didn't see Zoomlion coming to do the work. They went to the Ministry of Local Government, and then the Ministry of Local Government couldn't produce evidence that anybody saw them doing the work. They asked Zoomlion whether they were supervised by anybody saw them doing this kind of work that the contract mandated them to do. The response through Zoomlion's lawyer was that the contract didn't mandate them to be supervised by anybody.
Eesh.
So money is paid, and the person doing the contract couldn't say, when I went to Bongo District to do this contract, at least this official saw us.
But are they right?
Come again?
Are they correct that that the contracts didn't stipulate that they should supervise?
Well, but if you are doing a claim business, if I get a contract to come and fumigate Joy FM, and then I came to Joy FM to fumigate, at least one person within Joy FM should be able to attest that I came to Joy FM to do this work. Oh, we did this work on this date. The security opened for us to do. You cannot go to a district and then do a contract of this nature without anybody seeing you. Because it's something you are supposed to do in the open. It's not an official or clerical work, no. This is supposed to be a large-scale thing.
So they were to fumigate where? Markets, gutters, or where?
Yes, markets, gutters, and public spaces. Toilets and all.
So people should see them do it?
People should see them do it.
Aside the assembly, what about residents? Did anybody confirm or deny?
Nobody. The police actually went around because I did my investigation. It is in the report. Robbing the Assemblies Part 2. It is on YouTube. Anybody can watch.
Has Zoomlion directly responded to any of these claims? Because this work didn't start today. Any of these claims, Zoomlion responds?
The waste bins, they claim that the government wasn't paying them up front. That is why the price was what they quoted
higher
to the
purchase.
Government.
Yeah.
Some form of higher purchase then, right?
Well, all government contracts are such that you deliver, you raise invoice and you are paid. And then the contract was for 2017. The chief of staff at the time had written to the Minister for Finance to make provision in that budget to pay for the contract. But granted that you are even not paid upfront, and you are selling something less than
90
less than one
pesos,
cedis.
less than one cedi, yeah.
So even if the government is going to delay, maybe double it, sell it for, let's say, 2 cedis or 3 cedis. Okay, that would be like 300% increment or 200% increment. But you're selling it for 70 cedis a piece. So something that is $200,000, you are selling, you are invoicing it to the government for $14 million. And we are telling the excuses that, well, the government is not paying upfront. We know no government pays everything upfront. You deliver and then you are paid. So granted that you are even going to put something on it, $200,000 contract, it will be fine if you make it $300,000 because the government will delay, or $400,000. Let's say double it to $400,000. But this one is not $400,000, it's not $500,000, it's not even $1 million, $14 million. So these are the justifications, some of the justifications the company gave. When we did our report here on Joy, they issued a press release actually confirming the issues and giving this explanation and giving us a 7-day ultimatum to go to retract and apologize, or they will sue. So the management came to me and I said, well, we are prepared to meet them in court. They never sued. They sued me for saying that they were corrupt. And a former chief of staff and a minister of state said they could get Zoomlion to get the case. I said, no. I was prepared to go to court with them. We filed our defense. They ran away. So these things I'm saying, I am prepared to defend everything in court. There are documents to back them. And I believe that some state officials, government officials, are compromised. Otherwise, you won't sit down and sign some of these contracts. And I've been running this for 12 years, and it is only now that someone is beginning to realize that these workers are being cheated. This next year will be 20 years since this contract started. And when they started, the very first contract says, pay 350 cedis. Zoomlion should take 300 and then the worker should take 50 cedis. Then it came to 500 cedis. Zoomlion takes 400, then the workers take 100 cedis. Then it came to 600, the workers take 180, Zoomlion takes 420. Then it goes to 850, Zoomlion takes 600. So this has always been happening. And I must say the media has also been part of this cruelty if you take today's newspapers, from graphic to the rest, the front pages have this Zoomlion's explanation.
Yeah.
Yes, every newspaper take it. Daily Graphic, Ghanaian Times, everywhere is there. But when the president released this statement saying that Zoomlion's contract will not be renewed, check all the newspapers, not even one of them. So over the years, you have the media sometimes campaigning for some of these shady companies and shady contracts. And it is the reason that when one person takes up an initiative to expose this, you are fighting not only against the company and the government officials, but you have the media. This contract that led to the cancellation of the $74 million contract, can you believe the Ghana Journalists Association issued a press statement against me that we shouldn't destroy profitable local businesses.
So what do you say to that? I mean, since you've made the moral arguments,
Yes.
Overbilling, undercutting workers, value for money issues.
There are also legal arguments too.
Great.
Because people can go to jail for this.
True.
Yes.
So what do you say to people who say that we're just bringing down a Ghanaian man who's done very good for himself and for the country? Because these are arguments pouring in, that he just sought to put him down. Because if you really go into it, it was agreed between government and Zoomlion.
Yes. So if the government and a private company team up to steal from you, you don't say that, well, because the beneficiary of the theft is a Ghanaian, we should shut up. If an armed robber enters your house, kills your father, kills your mother, steals the money, and robs your family, you are not going to say, well, this robber or thief is a Ghanaian thief, not a Nigerian thief, so let's protect the Ghanaian thief. There are many Ghanaians doing businesses, providing services. Okay? So if anybody knows why I wear African print all the time, my policy is that if I buy an African print, I'm investing in the Ghanaian economy. I took this decision since 2010, 2011. Mm-hmm. And that is my principle. Until some time ago, I was patronizing Jospon's Zoomlion sister company, their health insurance. Until the hospital I was attending with my family had issues with that health insurance company and were not accepting. That's how I ended my patronage of Zoomlion's business. Mm. I'm prepared to buy something that Jospon produces. But if a Jospon company is involved in thievery, if any Ghanaian company is involved in thievery, stealing from the people, we should all come together and then fight it. The 45,000, so let me just say, the 45,000 people who are cheated under this contract, they are Ghanaians, just like the Zoomlion boss. They are treated like slaves in their own country. When they fall sick, they don't have any form of insurance. If they go to work and then a car knocks them, they are on their own. They don't have any pension. 45,000 people are treated like slaves. The owner of Zoomlion, who is an elder of the Church of Pentecost, should at least have some kind of sympathy. The government officials who have sat at YEA or the ministry to draw this contract should see these people too as Ghanaians. The owner of Zoomlion is not more Ghanaian than the people who are treated like slaves in their own country. So we shouldn't talk about anytime you expose a corrupt company, oh, it's a Ghanaian company. The fact that you're a Ghanaian company doesn't mean you should be a thief. Being a thief is not a criteria to be a Ghanaian company. Okay, so anytime you expose wrongdoing, this is what comes. And it's not just Zoomlion. That is what anytime there's any issue of corruption, they say Ghanaian company, a Ghanaian individual. So I think we should look at the issues and not just the fact that a company is Ghanaian or not. If it's a Ghanaian company is doing good business, Jospon, if Jospon is doing good business, I'm prepared to support Jospon. If Jospon is doing something that is wrong, I'm prepared to write about it.
Now, I mean, when you started this work,
Yes.
You've mentioned 45,000 now. At a point in time, there was an audit.
Yes.
What do we know?
There was an audit by the Youth Employment Agency and the current MPP General Secretary, Justin Frimpong Kodria, who said that when the YEA went around to conduct a head count, the number of sweepers they found was around 38,000 people. And he added that some of them, many of them, didn't have appointment letters. Because the YEA, per the contract, is supposed to appoint and give to Zoomlion to manage. So some of them didn't have appointment letters, meaning that they were included in the program without recourse to the YEA.
Okay.
And when that happens, Zoomlion benefits because each person that is added, Zoomlion makes so much money.
Yeah.
But even with that, there were 38,000 and not 45,000. Meaning, this issue of ghost names that we are talking about at the National Service, we have it here too. And then he said at the press conference that when Zoomlion was asked to bring the payroll to authenticate its claim, the company didn't do it. So this is where the faulting of the state officials also comes in. You've been put in charge to protect our interest. Zoomlion is obviously going to protect its business interest. But if you are a worker at YEA, if you're a minister, yours is to protect our interests and then our resources. So if you are given the mandate and then you detect this, what you need to do is to suspend it until the company satisfies itself. And then even as far back as 2022, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly CEO also wrote to the YEA saying that, look, the people are supposed to sweep under Zoomlion. We don't see them. So give us a list. And the YEA didn't have it.
Okay.
So this is where it gets so confusing that we state officials will sit down and then pay a company based on a certain number.
Without verification.
Without verification.
Manasseh, my last question, is this a win? Over 9 contracts, over 2 decades, nearly 2 decades in action, and all these issues spurring out, in and out, and nobody's done anything. Is this a win? The seizure or the decision
non-renewal.
Non-renewal by the president, and it's just for 1 contract. Is it a win?
It is progress. This is the first time someone is prepared to even listen.
I thought you said Akufo-Addo listened and some monies were saved.
No, I mean that was the waste beans one.
Okay.
But the contracts, there are some one-off procurement deals, and then these contracts have been existing, there are many of them. So I'm talking about this sweepers contract. From 2006 to now. There's more than 19 years since this contract started. This is the first time someone is prepared to listen.
Okay.
This is the first time the government is talking about subjecting these contracts to the regional district level.
Yeah.
So the win will come based on what happens from here.
Okay.
If the government says, well, let's take it from the YEA, and then I've told you that there was a contract that had 11 different companies getting that fumigation contract, and all the 11 companies belong to the same Zoomlion-Jospon group. So if the government takes it from YE and then says, okay, every region should award sweepers contract, and if Zoomlion goes back to get this contract, not even Zoomlion, for the sweepers, if any company other than Zoomlion gets it, it's still a bad deal because we don't need it. We don't need the sweepers contracts. We don't need the fumigation contracts. If any assembly needs it, it should be a one-off thing. You don't need to put somebody on a retainer and pay for 15, 20 years to do fumigation. That if you take every Auditor General's report on the District Assembly's Common Fund, you have the fumigation, money deducted, work not done all the time, but nobody gets punished. So I think that if there will be a win, it will follow or proceed from what the government does from here. And that is where we should all come together and then police the system. I don't think it should be just a Manasseh battle, because the monies are for everybody. I have worked here before. If you take your pay slip every month and then you see how much is deducted as tax, and then you realize that that money is being paid for these services that are not rendered. Some are not needed in the first place. It hurts. Whoever is listening to us, when you buy things, you pay tax. So it shouldn't just be a Manasseh against Zoomlion fight. No, it should be every Ghanaian, because these monies that are taken from health insurance are part of the reason you go to the hospital, there are no beds. If anybody collapses anywhere, you are likely to die from preventable situations,
right.
because
Manasseh,
there are no...
time. Just like you're saying, it shouldn't be a Manasseh issue. It shouldn't be a Zoom. Like, we should also hit on the government.
The
because
government,
is in bed. They are the ones who enabled this to go on for so long. So the complicity or whatever we are talking about is Zoomlion and the successive governments we've had over the years. Great.